Today we are going to the chapter on force. If we take an object and apply a push on it, it will move from its position of rest. Also when I pull it, again it is going to move from a position of rest. There is also this another object. If I squeeze it, then the paste will come out. This is also another action that denotes force. This action, the push and the pull and the action of that deforms an object, these are called as force. Now what are the effects of force? Force can be many things. It can produce motion in an object which is at rest. Any object which is already moving, by applying force we can stop that object. Also, when any object is moving in a particular direction, by applying force we can change the direction of motion of the object, or the speed. If it is moving very slowly, by applying force we can increase or we can decrease the speed of the moving object, and we can change the dimension of the object, as in this case. Now these are the effects of force. It can produce motion, it can stop motion, it can change the speed or direction of motion, and it can change the dimension. Now from these effects we can finally come to the definition of force, that force is an external influence which changes or tends to change the state of rest or uniform motion of a body, or change the direction of a body, or deforms a body. All these points, 4 points, come in this definition. Now let us look at balance and unbalanced force. Suppose we have a wooden block and it is held by two strings P and Q, and we apply force on both the sides. This is force F1 and this is force F2 on Q and P respectively. When both these forces, that is F1 is equal to F2, we will see that this wooden block will not move. This kind of forces, that is F1 and F2, we call them as balance forces. Now if F1 is greater than F2, that is if F1 is greater than F2, we will see that, I'm putting it here, if F1 is greater than F2, then the wooden block will move towards the right. That means when it is pulling, it will move towards the right, because this F1 is more than F2. And if F2 is greater than F1, then the block will move towards the left. Now, as in this case here, F1 is greater than F2, so it's moving towards the right, and F2 is greater than F1, so it is moving towards the left. These are unbalanced forces. The definition of unbalanced forces is that the unequal and opposite forces acting on a body which change its state of rest or uniform motion are called unbalanced forces. Now Galileo performed an experiment. He took two wooden planks which were highly polished and inclined them at an angle, and he had placed a ball and made it roll down in this direction, and this ball, as it came down, the speed of the ball increased, and as it came down again, it went in the opposite direction to a distance till it reached the distance which is at the same height of the inclined plane, that is AB. If the same inclined plane now was taken and again made to incline at different angles, that is made to incline more, we will find that this ball will now travel at a greater distance so as to reach the same height of AB. In this case again more distance so as to reach the height of AB. Now if the plane was made to be totally straight, one of the inclined planes was made to be totally straight, then this ball was supposed to be moving forever and ever, because it will never reach the height of the inclined plane AB. But this is not practically true, because of the force of friction. From this Galileo's motions, we come to the Newton's first law of motion. Newton's first law of motion states that a body will continue in its state of rest or uniform motion in a straight line unless compelled by some applied unbalanced force to change its state of rest or uniform motion. That means if a body is at rest, it will continue to be in a state of rest unless there is some force which will change that state. And if it is in motion, it will continue to be in motion unless there is some kind of force that will either stop it or it will either increase or decrease the speed. That is Newton's first law of motion. Now, anything or material that is incapable of changing its rest or of uniform motion on its own is in a state of inertness, or what we call as inertia. Any material, when we apply any kind of force, here we will see that there are two balls. One, if I take it as a ball of stone, another one is a ball made of rubber, and if I apply force on this ball, it will travel at a greater distance, but this stone, it will not at all travel at a greater distance if I apply the same force. This shows that the stone has got more inertia than the ball because it has got more mass. More the mass, more is the inertia. That inertia is the capacity, is that the tendency of the body to continue in a state of rest or of uniform motion, even if some external unbalanced force is applied on it. This is called, there are three types of inertia: inertia of rest, inertia of motion, and inertia of direction. Inertia of rest means a body will continue in its state of rest unless there is some external force that will change the state, and it will continue in its state of motion unless there is even when there is any unbalanced force acting on it, and it will continue in a state of inertia, to be in a particular direction even if there is some external force applied on it. This tendency of a body is known as the inertia of rest, inertia of motion, and inertia of direction. We next come to